Why do narcissists suffer so much when they are old? Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's video, and I'm really happy that you could join me. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that doesn't often get discussed but is fascinating and, at the same time, quite sad. We'll be exploring why narcissists tend to suffer so much when they get older. This is something many people don't think about, but when you start to unpack it, you realize how deeply it ties into human nature, psychology, and the inevitable effects of aging. So let's get comfortable and dig into this complex issue together. Narcissists typically believe they are superior to others. They often demand excessive attention, admiration, and validation, yet paradoxically, they are incredibly fragile underneath their confident facade. They need others to reflect back their self-worth, and their sense of identity is built upon these external sources of validation. For most of their lives, many narcissists can manage to function within society by leveraging their charm, manipulation skills, and cultivated image of confidence and success. They often surround themselves with people who feed their ego, whether it's in romantic relationships, friendships, or even professional settings. In many cases, they thrive in environments that allow them to shine. But what we see in the youth or middle-aged years of a narcissist is often just a facade, an image that conceals the deep, underlying insecurity and lack of self-love. It's an empty core, constantly seeking to be filled from the outside. Now, why do narcissists suffer so much as they age? It comes down to the fragile nature of their self-worth and their reliance on external validation. Narcissists spend their entire lives depending on external factors, whether it's their physical appearance, their career achievements, or their social status. These are the very things that age takes away, one by one. When narcissists enter the later stages of life, they start to lose the superficial markers that once defined their worth, and they are ill-equipped to handle this because they haven't developed the internal resources, emotional depth, or meaningful relationships that would allow them to adapt to these changes gracefully. One of the most obvious factors is the physical aging process. Many narcissists take great pride in their appearance. They rely on their looks to garner attention and admiration, whether it's their youthful beauty, their stylish appearance, or their physical fitness. However, as we all know, time takes a toll on the body. Wrinkles form, hair turns gray, and the body doesn't work the way it used to. For most people, this can be a difficult transition, but it's especially devastating for narcissists. Their physical appearance, which may have been a primary source of their validation, begins to fade, and they find themselves losing control over the very thing that gave them power. For narcissists, aging is not just a natural part of life. It feels like an existential threat. They've invested so much of their identity in their appearance that the natural process of aging feels like an attack on their sense of self. They might try to fight it with plastic surgery, intense fitness regimens, or obsessive grooming, but these efforts can only go so far. As the signs of aging become more and more apparent, they may become increasingly anxious, depressed, or even angry. The body, which once served as a source of admiration and attention, becomes a source of shame and frustration. Career success is another area where narcissists often experience intense suffering as they age. Narcissists tend to measure their self-worth based on external achievements, job titles, professional accolades, or financial success. In their younger years, they may have been able to climb the corporate ladder, amassing status and recognition along the way. But as they grow older, their professional relevance may start to wane. Younger, more ambitious individuals begin to take their place, and their career accomplishments, once a point of pride, may no longer seem as impressive. For a narcissist, this is devastating. Their professional identity, which they've built their ego around, starts to unravel. If they've spent their entire lives viewing success as a zero-sum game, where they must always be the best, the most admired, and the most powerful. Then aging becomes a direct assault on their value as a human being. Retirement, in particular, can be extremely challenging for narcissists because it represents the loss of their professional identity and the admiration that came with it. They may struggle to find meaning outside of their work, and the loss of status can feel unbearable. Another critical aspect of why narcissists suffer so much as they age is the deterioration of their personal relationships. Narcissists often have a transactional approach to relationships. They view people as sources of narcissistic supply, meaning that they use others for admiration, validation, and attention. Over time, this behavior can strain or even destroy their relationships. Friends, family members, and romantic partners may grow tired of being used and manipulated, eventually distancing themselves from the narcissist. In the early stages of life, narcissists may be able to find new sources of narcissistic supply to replace those who have left, but as they grow older, this becomes more difficult. Their charm and charisma may not work as well as they used to, and they may find that people are less willing to put up with their self-centered behavior. As their social circle shrinks, narcissists can become increasingly isolated, and they are often left without the deep, meaningful connections that sustain most people through the later stages of life. Loneliness can set in, and for someone who thrives on the attention of others, this is a particularly painful experience. Aging also forces narcissists to confront something they spent their entire lives avoiding: vulnerability. Narcissists hate feeling weak or dependent. They pride themselves on their perceived superiority and control, but aging strips away that control in ways they can't ignore. Health problems, declining energy, and the need for assistance from others are all part of the aging process. For a narcissist, being vulnerable is deeply threatening because it goes against everything they've built their identity around. This loss of control can trigger feelings of helplessness and rage. They may lash out at those around them, blaming others for their declining state. In some cases, they may even sink into deep despair, as they can no longer maintain the image of invincibility they once projected. The fear of death, which most people learn to accept and cope with over time, can become a source of constant anxiety for narcissists, who see it as the ultimate loss of control and the ultimate insult to their ego. Another key reason why narcissists suffer so much in old age is their lack of emotional resilience. Throughout their lives, narcissists often avoid dealing with their emotions in a healthy way. They suppress feelings of insecurity, fear, and inadequacy by focusing on external achievements and validation. They haven't developed the emotional tools that help people cope with life's inevitable challenges, like aging, loss, and disappointment. When they reach old age and are forced to confront these realities, they don't have the emotional depth or coping mechanisms to handle them. The very things they've avoided all their lives, feelings of vulnerability, loss, and insignificance, come rushing to the surface. This can lead to a sense of despair or even depression, as they realize they've spent their lives chasing superficial goals that no longer bring them happiness or fulfillment. Interestingly, some of the very traits that allowed narcissists to thrive in their younger years, charm, manipulation, and an inflated sense of self, become liabilities as they age. People may have once admired their confidence and ambition, but as they get older, these traits may come across as arrogance, entitlement, and an inability to adapt. The narcissist's inability to change or grow emotionally can alienate them from those around them, leaving them increasingly isolated and bitter. It's important to recognize that aging can also be a time of personal growth for many people. For those who have spent their lives building meaningful relationships, developing emotional resilience, and finding internal sources of self-worth, aging can bring a sense of peace, wisdom, and acceptance. But for narcissists who have focused on external validation and control, aging can feel like a betrayal. The world they once dominated no longer caters to their needs, and the reality of their own mortality becomes impossible to ignore. In some rare cases, aging might prompt a narcissist to reflect on their life and begin the difficult process of change. They may come to realize that their previous way of interacting with the world, through manipulation, control, and a constant need for admiration, was ultimately unsatisfying. This can lead to a shift in perspective, and with effort, they may start to develop more meaningful relationships and a healthier sense of self. However, because narcissism is so deeply ingrained in their personality, this kind of transformation is rare and often comes only after a great deal of suffering. In the end, narcissists suffer so much in old age because aging forces them to confront the very things they've spent their lives avoiding: vulnerability, loss of control, and the need for genuine human connection. Without their looks, their career success, or their social power, they're left with an empty sense of self that can no longer be propped up by external validation. For most people, aging is a natural part of life, but for narcissists, it feels like a personal failure. Their suffering is a reflection of the emptiness they've carried within them all along. And without the tools to adapt, they are left struggling in ways that others may not fully understand. Thank you all for sticking with me through this deep and complex discussion. It's been a heavy topic, but an important one to understand, especially if you've ever wondered why some people struggle so much with the aging process. I appreciate your time and your willingness to explore these psychological topics with me. Be sure to leave your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, take care of yourselves and those around you. Thanks again for watching.